Hello everyone, I am Joanne Agrabe from BSIT 1B and my partner is Susan Tomas. We're here now to present and our topic is self from the perspective of sociology. But before we start, I want to tell you the learning objectives. At the end of the unit, I am able to describe the self as a social structure, explain the 4 stages of role development in child socialization, analyze the importance of socialization for individuals and society, explain the nature versus nurture debate, describe both the conformity of behavior in society and the existence of individual uniqueness, learn the roles of families and peer groups in socialization, understand how we are socialized through formal institutions like schools, workplaces, and the government, explain how people are socialized into new roles at age-related transition points. Why socialization matters? It is important because it helps uphold societies and cultures, and it is also a key part of individual development. Socialization is just as essential to us as individuals. Social interaction provides the means via which we gradually become able to see ourselves through the eyes of others and how we learn who we are and how we fit into the world around us. Study exhibits that we are stirred by both. Nature is the hormonal and genetic and composition. Nurture is the cultural surroundings in which we are upraised. Nature is what we think of as pre-wiring and influenced by genetic inheritance and other biological factors. Nurture is generally taken as the influence of external factors after conception, the product of exposure like experiences and learning on an individual. In other words, guys, nature can be said to be given, whereas nurture can be said to be learned. Example, homosexuality. Nature proponents believes that homosexuality is genetic or outside of a person's control. Nurture proponents believes that homosexuality is a choice or behavior influenced by environmental factors. Another example, guys, when a professional athlete has a child that also becomes a professional athlete, is that nature or nurture? We will make it easy. Was the athletic ability passed genetically through birth its nature, or was it a behavior learned through countless hours of repetition and practice its nurture? Sociology is nearly concerned with the way that influences our behavior patterns. It is brought by the manners of behavior differ from class and gender. Sociology helps us to understand our behaviors as social beings in this world. It is an essential subject as it enables us to have an awareness of societies within the world and different social groups. It also gives us an idea of how people react, why they react this way, and conflict between people. Self-development, according to the psychological theories, it has been broadened by sociologists who explicitly examine the social interaction and the role of the society. Mead and Cooley both impart importantly to the sociological understanding of the development of the self. Mead, or George Herbert Mead, 1863 to 1931, studied the self, a person's distinct identity that is developed through social interaction. In order to engage in this process of self, an individual has to able to view him or herself through the eyes of others. Cooley, or Charles Cooley, 1864 to 1929, he asserted that people's self-understanding is constructed in part by their perception of how others view them, a process termed the looking glass self, Cooley 1902. Carol Gilligan and Lawrence Kohlberg developed their concepts further, exploring how our awareness of morality develops. Gilligan also added the concept of gender differences to Kohlberg's theory. Carol Gilligan's 1936 recognized the Kohlberg's theory might show gender bias since his research was only conducted on male subjects. Gilligan research demonstrate that boys and girls do, in fact, have different understandings of morality. Boys tend to have a loss, girls on the other hand have a care and responsibility perspective. She explained that boys are socialized for work environment, while girls are socialized for a home environment where flexibility allows for harmony in caretaking and nurturing. Gilligan's 1982 to 1990. Lawrence Kohlberg 1927 to 1987, he developed a theory of moral development that includes three levels: pre-conventional, conventional, and post-conventional. In the pre-conventional stage, young children who lack a higher level of cognitive ability experience the world around them only through their senses. It isn't until the teen years that the conventional theory develops, when youngsters become increasingly aware of others' feelings and take those into consideration when determining what's good and bad. The final stage, called post-conventional, is when people begin to think of morality. Human beings are born with natural traits and genetic makeup. When we say natural traits, these are the certain genetic disease, eye color, hair color, and skin color. When we say genetic makeup, it's described on organism's complete set of genes. The same individuals evolves through social interaction. One of the strongest capacities of a social creature is its ability to communicate. Wherever you go in the world, you'll see groups of people gathered together to share ideas, catch up on trivia, and engage in all forms of communication that are currently technologically possible. Both in the fields of psychology and sociology have presented the cognitive process of development of the self and to understand how that self becomes socialized. In psychology, personal development is also known as self-development or personal growth. It involves the growth and enhancement of all aspects of the person. The feelings the person has about himself or herself and their effectiveness in living. Sociology say about self-development, the part of a personality consisting of self-awareness and self-image is a product of a social experience.
Sigmund Freud. Sigmund Freud is a prestigious psychoanalyst. He is a modern scientist to put away the theory about on how to develop the meaning of self. He also thinks that sexual development and personality were nearly attached, and he separates the process of maturation into overall psychosexual stage that affect the child's discovery through the physical pleasures. Sigmund Freud was an Austrian neurologist and the founder of psychoanalysis, a clinical method for evaluating and treating pathologies in the psyche through dialogue between a patient and a psychoanalyst. Freud was born to Galician Jewish parents in the Moravian town of Freiburg in the Austrian Empire. Sigmund Freud was born in May 6, 1856 in Freiburg, Czechia. He died on September 23, 1939 at the age of 83. His wife is Martha Vernice. Siblings is Esther Adolphine Freud, Anna Freud, Alexander Gotthold Ephraim Freud, Emanuel Freud, and more. Children is Anna Freud, Ernst L. Freud, Sophie Freud, Martin Freud, Matilde Freud, and Oliver Freud. Parents is Amalia Freud and Jacob Freud. Sigmund Freud also promoted cocaine as a medical drug, but it turns out to be a dangerous and addicted. A few years later, he founded a discipline that would ultimately make his name, and the new psychological medicine he called psychoanalysis. Charles Horton Cooley, he pioneered the sociological perspective on the self-development, 1864-1929. He declared that the people's understanding of the self is constructed, looking-glass self in part, is their conceptualization on how others see them, Cooley 1902. People imagine how they must look to some on certain outfits, fix their hair, and how they wear makeup. The perception that our look is going to change how some others view us. People always expect a particular reaction, and if it is positive, we get it and feel good about it. Cooley believed that self is not only based on some inner source of identity. In some other words, people react like in a manner in which we are affected. The imaginations people have of one another are the solid fact of society. Cooley, 1902. Charles Horton Cooley was an American sociologist and the son of Michigan Supreme Court Judge Thomas M. Cooley. He studied and went on to teach economics and sociology at the University of Michigan, was a founding member of the American Sociological Association in 1905 and became its 8th president in 1918. Charles Horton Cooley was born in August 17, 1864, Ann Arbor, Michigan, United States. He died on May 8, 1929 at the age of 65. His full name is Charles Horton Cooley. His wife is Elsie Jones. His parents is Thomas M. Cooley and Mary Elizabeth Horton. The best concept of Charles Cooley is the looking-glass self. He worked and presented together with George Herbert Mead, Internet Encyclopedia of Philosophy, in 1863 to 1931. George Herbert Mead, Social Self, Mead, 1863-1931. Precocious, a more elaborated sociological approach to the self. He agreed that the self is an individual's clear individuality that develops only through social interaction. He argued that the critical element of the self is its capability for self-reflection, its capacity to be an object to itself, Mead 1934. According to Mead, it broke the self down into two components or phases, the I and the me. I, on the other hand, represent a portion of the self that act on its own drive or react the organized attitude of others, like a novel, spontaneous, unpredictable portion of the self. It is always caught up in a social process in which we turn back and forth between the I and the me. Me represent the part of the self as organized sets of attitudes towards the self. It is who we are in others' eyes, our roles, our personalities, our public personas. George Herbert Mead was born in February 27, 1863, in South Hadley, Massachusetts, United States. He died on April 26, 1931, at the age of 68. His wife is Ellen Kingsbury Castle. Children is Henry Castle Albert Mead. His parents is Elizabeth Storrs Mead and Hiram Mead.